It all started with a single notification. I was in the kitchen, my hands covered in flour, trying to perfect a new pasta recipe for dinner. My phone buzzed on the counter, and I glanced at the screen. A coworker had tagged me in a photo. The preview was small, but it was clear enough. My girlfriend Aria was at a club she told me she wasn't going to. She was on a crowded dance floor, a drink in her hand, smiling up at some guy who had his arm wrapped casually around her waist. I wiped my hands on a towel, my heart starting to pound. I opened the app, my fingers feeling clumsy. There it was in the full resolution. I zoomed in, desperately hoping I was wrong, that it was just an awkward angle or a misunderstanding, but no. The look on her face, the way the guy held her. There was no misreading it. My chest tightened. I felt the air leave my lungs. I messaged her right away. "Hey, where are you?" A few minutes passed. Then her reply came. "Out with the girls." "Music's too loud to talk." My stomach twisted into a knot. I typed back, "Which club?" Instead of an answer, 3 heart emojis popped up on my screen. That was her tell. The cute, evasive response she used when she was hiding something. I stayed calm, or at least I tried to. "Have fun," I replied, and put my phone down, staring at the half-made pasta dough. The appetite I had just moments ago was completely gone. Minutes later, my phone buzzed again. It was a picture from her. A close-up of a fancy cocktail against a backdrop of city lights. The caption read, "Rooftop vibes." She was trying to sell me a story, pretending she was at some quiet lounge, not the pulsing nightclub I'd just seen her in. I already knew it was a lie, but I didn't call her out. Not yet, the game had just started. Instead, I messaged the coworker who posted the original photo. "Hey man, that picture you just tagged me in. Is that from tonight?" He replied almost instantly. "Yeah, dude, took it like 40 minutes ago. Wild night, wait. Is that your girlfriend?" "Oh man, I'm so sorry. I had no idea. I told him it was no problem, that I wasn't mad at him." How could I be? He had just unknowingly handed me the truth. I sank onto the couch, the image replaying in my mind. The guy's hand on her waist, her smile, the lie about the rooftop bar. Every detail was a small, sharp piece of a puzzle I never wanted to solve. Hours crawled by. The pasta dough sat abandoned on the counter. Around 11, she texted again. "Hey, gonna be late. My friend had a bit too much to drink, have to make sure she gets home okay." Another lie layered on top of the others. I simply responded, "Okay." She didn't need to know that I knew. She didn't need to know I was watching her build a fortress of deception, brick by brick. Then, just before midnight, another notification. This time, it was a video. Someone else from the party had posted it to their story, and there she was again. Dancing with the same guy, but it was different now. They were closer, their movements sensed in a way that screamed intimacy. His hands were on her hips, hers were around his neck. My chest felt like it was on fire, but I made myself watch the entire 15-second clip. I watched it again and again. It was like ripping off a bandage, slow and agonizing, knowing the pain was necessary. She finally walked through the door around 2 in the morning. She was trying to be quiet, but stumbled into the hall table. Her hair was a mess, and the smell of cheap perfume and alcohol clung to her. She leaned in and gave me a quick, dry kiss on the cheek, carefully avoiding my eyes. "Hey," she whispered. I didn't move from the couch. "Did you have fun?" I asked, my voice flat. She plastered on a smile that was way too wide, too bright. "Yeah, it was great. Just a relaxing girls' night, you know? We just chatted and caught up." Her eyes darted around the room, never landing on me. "Is that really the whole story, Arya?" I asked quietly. She froze. For a split second, I saw panic flash in her eyes before she covered it with a forced laugh. "What are you talking about?" "You're being weird tonight." She tried to dismiss it to make me the problem. I didn't say another word. I just stood up and walked to the bedroom, leaving her standing alone in the hallway, her flimsy story hanging in the air between us. The next day was surreal. She acted like nothing had happened. She sent me a stream of texts filled with heart emojis, inside jokes, and selfies of her smiling at her desk. It was a masterclass in denial. I answered politely, keeping my replies short. A part of me had already detached. A switch had been flipped, and I couldn't flip it back. That evening, I went to the library and printed the photos. the one from my coworker, and a few screenshots from the video. I put them in a plain white envelope and left it on the kitchen table, right where she always put her keys. I heard her humming a cheerful tune as she walked in. The sound stopped abruptly when she saw the envelope. She picked it up, her brow furrowed in confusion. I watched as she slowly pulled out the photos. The color drained from her face. She looked like she'd seen a ghost. "My name," she whispered it, a fragile sound. The guilt was written all over her face, undeniable and stark. "Why did you lie to me?" I asked, my voice steady. Her voice cracked as she tried to form words. "It was just dancing. Dancing isn't the problem, Arya," I said. "The deceit is," she started to explain, but her excuses were a tangled mess. She didn't want me to worry. Her friends just wanted her to unwind. The guy was just a friend from work. A friend whose name, when I asked, she couldn't even remember. "Why couldn't you just tell me the truth from the start?" I asked her. She stared at the floor, the silence in the room growing heavy, suffocating. Finally, she looked up, her eyes glossy with unshed tears. "I liked the attention," she admitted, her voice barely a whisper. "It made me feel alive again." Those words, they hurt more than the pictures, more than the lies. It wasn't about a stranger in a club. It was about a void in her, in us, that she chose to fill with deception. "I'm not angry," I told her, and it was the truth. "I'm just disappointed." She reached for my hand, but I instinctively pulled away. That small movement seemed to break her. The tears finally fell. "It was a stupid mistake," she cried. "I promise it will never happen again. Please don't leave me." But trust doesn't break with a loud crash. It develops tiny hairline fractures over time, and then one day it just crumbles into dust. I didn't give her an answer. I walked into the bedroom, packed a small bag with a few essentials, and headed for the door. I could hear her begging me to stay, but the words felt distant, like they were coming from a movie. As I drove through the city, the neon lights blurring past my windows, I felt two things at once. A deep, hollow ache in the center of my chest, and a strange sense of relief. The weight of suspicion, the gut-wrenching anxiety of not knowing, it was gone. All that was left was the cold, hard truth. I got to my brother's place and collapsed on his spare bed. My phone was buzzing incessantly with her text-long paragraphs of apologies, promises, and pleas. I read them, but I didn't reply. Not to be cruel, but because I needed silence. I needed clarity. A relationship and be held together by love alone if the foundation of trust has been washed away. In that quiet room, I realized that walking away wasn't an act of giving up. It might be the only honest choice I had left.